Despite the palace's massive library, Dorian is unable to find answers about the source of his magical ability after generations of its dormancy in his family line. Selena recreates the ancient forest of Rena Goldsmith's legend for Cale's birthday and confesses her non-compliance with the king's assassination orders, causing Cale to panic. When Cale realizes Selena's plans to leave, he finally crosses the line to show her his feelings, and the pair spend the evening in each other's arms. While Dorian works up the nerve to ask Baba Yellowlegs questions about magic, Nehemia criticizes Selena for her cowardice due to her unwillingness to free Ilway. The King of Otterlin informs Cale of his intent to question Nehemia and makes him swear to keep others away. And though Cale complies, he wrestles with his own doubt and fear over the king's intentions.
Hey there, we're BookTok for BookTok with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and we embrace and respect modern fantasy, romance, and romantasy books written by women. And so it's in our nature to analyze these books as we would any other novel we might have dissected in school.
With our combined 13 years of literary academic training, we use our education to analyze and give voice to reasons why you may love or hate today's popular books.
This week, we're discussing chapters 22 through 26 of Sarah J. Maas's second Throne of Glass novel, Crown of Midnight. For a complete list of episodes and the chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle BookTok for BookTok.
Before we dive in, let's talk about S.P.I.L.T. Spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, and themes.
Spoilers. While our discussion is about Throne of Glass, important context from the first three novels in the series will be discussed without spoiler warnings. That is specifically Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. This is not a read-along for anyone who hasn't read at least these three books, and you will be spoiled from here on out. So please, take this as your only spoiler warning. For all other spoilers beyond Heir of Fire and other SJM works, we will keep those to the Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks area at the end of the episode.
Perspective and interpretation. What we discuss in this episode are strictly our personal interpretation of the text. We do not speak for Sarah J. Maas and in no way know her intentions for her books or characters. We also know our listeners have their own personal views and opinions, and we encourage you to share your thoughts with us because every perspective and interpretation is worth exploring.
Language. Even though we try to not swear, we do swear, and so there is explicit language.
I literally have a ring that says fuck on it, so we don't try. Themes. We also discuss some pretty heavy subjects throughout the podcast that can include themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. While we will do our best to give trigger warnings for the darker themes, we will discuss these topics when they are important to the text. Listener discretion is advised.
As always, we love keeping the conversation going because our listeners are so good at finding things we've overlooked or missed completely. You can share your interpretation of the text with us by posting on social media, tagging us in stories, sending us DMs, or submitting to the form on our website. We also post more exclusive content and host live streams for our Patreon supporters. You can find us at patreon.com/BookTok for BookTok. This week, we ask ourselves, if knowledge is power, what are the power dynamics between Selena, Cale, and Nehemia?
Themes we'll see in this section include hope and expectations. Chapter 22 starts with Dorian. He is having a total crash out in the library. He is researching his little heart out, and he's just like, who has magic? Do I have magic? Why do I have magic? Will my daddy still love me? And in this moment, he is still thinking about his brother. Quote, hopefully by then he'd figure out how to suppress it and teach Holland to do the same thing. He might not be fond of his brother, but he didn't wish the boy dead. This is very similar to Cale in, I think, last week's episode, where Cale was like, God, I hope we are able to save him before he turns out to be a total dick. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's kind of nice to see Dorian trying to take on responsibilities to look out for his brother. And I think that we're seeing him really step up into his own self in growth. So I'm seeing hope for Dorian.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's really the first time we've seen him think of someone else in a sense of I really am looking out for their safety. You know, for Holland, it's questionable. Does he deserve that safety? I don't know, but he is only what, 10 years old,
Yeah, he's a
so
child, so I think the answer is
I
yes.
guess the
Instinct,
answer is
like
yes.
automatically, I'm going to throw this out there. Yes.
So this moment is also a reminder to us as the readers how Dorian is not the king of Otterlin. We see Dorian's humanity in this episode, including that through this thought. And that's important because we're leading up to the king's interrogation of Nehemia, which ultimately is her death. So we have to continue to separate Dorian from the king. Now, as Dorian is looking into his family genealogy to understand how he has magic, he discovers this quote, several gifted people had married into the bloodline, but their children hadn't been born with the power, no matter what manner of gifts their parents possessed. Was it coincidence or divine will? We get several hints at gods and divine will throughout these chapters, and I only point it out now because I think it's setting up some important stuff for this series. So we'll try to call it out as we see it.
Yeah. In his research, Dorian thinks about Terrasen, and every time he thinks about Terrasen, and then we're going to find out that he actually met Aelin, it always gives me chills, and I always like reread the paragraph 5 times over, where I'm like, oh, he doesn't know. And I have to remind myself, they're not real. But I still freak out. At this point, he's thinking about, so Dorian is thinking about like how Terrasen never invaded anyone, and he thinks, quote, but they never had. While they'd been gifted, they never once pushed their borders, even when wars came to their doorstep. Live in America, can't relate. Life hurts right now.
Yeah.
I hate it. Anyway, we can see this in Selena herself, though. These aspects about Terrasen that he's reflecting on, and he's just like, wow, like they never misused their power. You know, they really didn't go out seeking anything. It really came to them. Like, these are some strengths and aspects that we can also identify in Selena as well. The fact that she's never really misused her strength as an assassin or even as a fae.
That's a great point. And what I like about this is that we've only really heard about Tirsen and the royal house and the court through Nehemia. And as we're about to discover, Nehemia lies a lot and withholds a lot of information. So it's important that we get this information also through Dorian, through his own memories, through his own understanding, because he's not a character that's lied to us. And I think SJM does it now for the very reason that Hemia is about to die.
Yeah.
But it also justifies why Nehemia and her family idolize Terrasen, the royal house, and its court.
Yeah, it's so, they make it so mythical, you know, like country that's so powerful that doesn't abuse its power never once. I like that's
Who
the
would have
most
known?
that's the most out of pocket fantasy thing that is a part of this. Is a peaceful court.
Yep.
So now we have this moment where Dorian is thinking about Aelin specifically, which again gives me full body chills. I'm just in here kicking my feet, giggling, going, he met Selena, Aelin. They're the same person. Anyway, let's look at these two quotes. The first one, quote, if the heir of Terrasen, Aelin Galathynius, had lived, would she have become a friend, an ally, his bride? The questions of what if is going to be a reoccurring theme, and I think that's going to be, from here on out, a reoccurring theme, right? What if Kale had told the truth? What if Selena had told the truth? What if Nehemia had told the truth? There's a lot of what ifs that are going to happen, and I love this question of, well, what if Aelin had been princess and had carried on? Like, they probably would have, I don't think they would have married because then that would have to combine kingdoms, but it would have been a potential. They would have met, they would have flirted.
Yeah. Or Dorian could have been her consort and Holland could have inherited the throne. Or Aelin could have been his consort and Adian could have inherited the throne.
You have a lot of options.
So many options.
But what I think is funny, though, is that in this like book and a half at this point, right? Because we're at the halfway point of this book. No one's really thought of wife and bride necessarily. I mean, in the first book, we had Dorian's mom being like, you got to get married. But here he is thinking, would Aelin have been my bride? And then just in a couple chapters, Kale's going to think about Selena as his wife. And I'm going to discuss how Selena doesn't really match the image of wife. And it's the same way where Dorian is saying his bride, his wife, which again, there's no way you can phrase it because it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you can't say not have that ownership about it.
Yeah.
But when you have these two guys that have both historically wanted Selena and they're both battling with this like ownership of like, do you think she'd marry me? You know?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, but in a possessive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would will she be my bride? Will she be my wife?
One time this was like forever ago, and I'm like, oh, no wonder why I'm still single. Sorry, that's depressing. But there was one time I was in Arizona. I was with my friend and she was like with her boyfriend and then five other girls who were with their boyfriends. And the guys were all introducing the women as like, oh yeah, that's Stephanie, that's Alex girl, that's Joe's girl, that's blah blah's girl. And I hate it and it drove me crazy. And then by the time it came to me, the only single one, I was like, hi, I'm Jack, my own girl. Nice to meet you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is one of those moments with Dorian thinking about Aelin Galathinius and could she have been his bride, where I wonder if this quote is still here in this book from a time when SJM planned for Selena and Dorian to be endgame, because
Mhm.
it feels like a breadcrumb that she would plant. Or if that's the case, did she perhaps leave it because it conveys something about Dorian that he's on the path, but he still has a long way to go before he's over himself and
Yeah.
his arrogant ways.
Yep. It's so I really wish I could go and ask her and go line through line of being like, was this original? Who did you have in mind when you were writing this? Because
Mm-hmm.
even these chapters, I really question that.
Yep.
Dorian continues to think about Aelin, and he thinks, quote, he'd met her once, in the days before her kingdom became a charnel house. The memory was hazy, but she'd been a precocious wild child, and had set her nasty, brutish older cousin on him in order to teach Dorian a lesson for spilling tea on her dress. Again, it's like, I'm like, oh my god, he met her and he doesn't remember, and it's so much fun. But also, I feel like, didn't Selena threaten Dorian and Kale at one point in the first book of like, don't spill anything on my dress or don't get my dress dirty? And it's just like such a Selena thing to do that I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
was a perfect breadcrumb that SJM set up.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Speaking of setup, it's almost as if I set that up perfectly. Let's talk about setup and the way that it can be effective and efficient. And I will say, I think this is something that SJM does really well. We've noticed this in Akatar in Crescent City. And that's when SJM has a chapter and she does little clues leading up to a reveal that's going to happen pretty quickly within that same chapter. And I think that it's an effective tool and can be a good writing device when used accordingly. Like, don't use it every time, but this is
Right.
done well. So Dorian is thinking about Kale and Selena, and he's just like, I am so over them. I don't care. I don't care at all. And it stirs up some feelings. Quote, and Kale hadn't tried to suggest that Dorian was welcome either. This is like to his little party that Selena was planning. What did she plan to do exactly? The temperature in the library dropped, a frozen draft blowing in from a distant corridor. Like we're just ignoring this casual moment of magic happening, but hey, we know SJM loves a drafty corridor. We know a castle
Mm.
loves a good wind. Throw some rose scent in there and it's just a normal wind in a castle. So again, not quite a breadcrumb, but this is a setup and we are about to get immediate payoff for this.
Is important to note that you can't see because you're listening is that specific sentence about the temperature dropping and about the draft in the distant corridor. That is a single sentence that is its own paragraph. So even structurally, visually within the book, SJM is calling out this little setup clue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So remember when Dorian looked at Selena, took a breath, and let her go?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he told Nehemia, I'm done?
Yeah, yeah.
Turns out
He's
that's
not.
not how emotions work.
Yeah.
And we continue this quote. He could let go. He had let go. He'd let go. Let go. let books flew from their shelves, dozens upon dozens, bursting into flight, and this time they slammed into him as he staggered back towards the end of the row. So the payoff is immediate, right? We see that there was hints of magic building up. We have this tension, but again, rather, the payoff is good when you're building tension, when you're building this moment of revelation of holy shit, there's magic and it's actually happening. So I appreciate it. I appreciate when she does this because she does it so well. This scene with Dorian, I feel like is a very well written scene. And I think part of that is because to me, it's like very classical in the sense of writing devices. And another example of that is while he's freaking out, Dorian thinks, quote, he could trust no one. And he actually says that twice in a relatively short amount of time, which sometimes I'd be like, you just repeated yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's meant to drive a point home. So I think if you wanted to read a scene that, again, my opinion, other people can disagree, is like a solid scene, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I completely agree. After the books fly off the bookshelf, quote, it took him a few minutes to put them all back, his heart pounding so hard he thought he'd be sick again. Now, again, we're seeing, as we've seen in previous episodes, Dorian's magic makes him sick. And it's not because he's actually physically eaten something that's not good for him, it's because he is so terrified because of the danger that having magic puts him in. So, as we've talked about before, sickness is equivalent to weakness in humanity. And there's some irony in that, the fact that Dorian has magic and uses magic and it makes him sick and weak, but it actually is really strong magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just this weird combination, but it just shows you how terrified he is.
Mm-hmm.
The power within him is animalistic as well, another cause for concern for him because it's very much like Selena's primal power as well. There's something about it that he doesn't have control of. Quote, no, there was some force still running through him, begging him to unleash it again, to open himself up. Yeah, he should be worried.
Yeah. Yeah. I am. So we're now with Selena, and she's getting ready for Kale's birthday, his horny birthday, and she is all dressed up. And I want to talk about how she's all dressed up, and then I want to talk about how Kale's dressed up. So first, Selena, quote, the dress was pale blue, almost white, and encrusted with crystal beading that made the fabric look like the shimmering surface of the sea. It's a very pretty color for her, but I do want to know it's not terracin green. And I'm not saying that just because it's not terracin green doesn't mean that, it doesn't represent her. However, yes, it is. That is, in fact, you could say that it's not reflecting her most honest and true self because she's not wearing terracin green. So I think that is something to note because she's still not being her most honest and true self of her own identity. But I want to put a pin in this description of her dress, and I will circle back to that later this chapter or sometime next chapter. I can't remember. Now to look at Kale's description. Quote, not surprisingly, he wore black, but at least it wasn't his uniform. No, his tunic and pants looked to be a fine make, and it seemed like he even run a comb through his hair. I hate it. I hate how easy it
Wow.
is for one.
He used a comb.
I am now embracing my curls and my natural hair. It takes me like 40 fucking minutes to do my hair.
I'm sorry.
Kale ran a comb through it.
And that's called effort.
And he wore not his uniform, but the same color. Wow.
Yeah.
Give that man a trophy. Anyway, I will say I do think it's symbolic of their very short-lived relationship. I will argue in this episode that I think Selena gives more of herself to Kale than Kale gives to Selena. And that's not because Kale doesn't love her. I actually think Kale gives her everything he has. It's just that Selena has more to give. She has more commitments. Anything she's sacrificing will be a significantly bigger sacrifice than what Kale is willing to do. And immediately, again, not that he's willing to do, he just doesn't have the same sacrifice of a whole ass kingdom like she does.
Right.
And So it's not on him and it's not on her. It just kind of is. And I think that's going to be partly what breaks the relationship. Yes.
I have a thought.
Go ahead.
So her pale blue dress is so pale it's almost white, and he is wearing black. Feels very wedding-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And she's walking down the stairs towards him across a hall, very much like walking down the aisle.
Yeah.
I think we're visually supposed to be getting this imagery of a wedding, of them
Mm-hmm.
meeting at the altar, which in some ways they kind of are. They are going to consummate a relationship this evening.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was intentional on SJM's part.
Good call. I mean, very much blushing bride. She saves herself for the
Mm-hmm.
night of the wedding for her groom. Like it is very
Mm-hmm.
much wedding-esque. So good
Yep.
call. Also, SJM is, as I wrote, good for making us excited. Oh, she does. Good job. Quote, he watched her every step across the hall, his face unreadable. I had butterflies the entire time reading this. I was just
Oh,
like,
really?
oh my God, he's looking at her across the hall. It's so sweet.
Again, bare minimum.
Again, so single. There's also this quick moment, and it's almost like an offhanded comment, but offhanded comments don't fly here.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, happy birthday, she said before he could object to her clothes. When I saw that, I was like, babe, why is he objecting to your clothes? Like, why are we bringing this up? Why are you nervous about your clothes? Why is it something that he would automatically say something negative about it?
Mm-hmm.
And does she fear that he's going to object to her dressing up in the feminine and looking nice? Or is she fearing that he's going to reject what she's essentially offering him?
Well, when you think of it as if it were a wedding dress, it makes sense why she would be so nervous and,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, defensive.
Yeah.
I think in this moment, she's afraid of rejection. And I think ultimately, everything that Selena does comes down to, will they accept me regardless of what I'm hiding from them?
Yeah.
Right? Can they still accept me? And actually, is it even acceptance
Mm-hmm.
if they don't know who I am or what this facade disguises?
Yeah.
And the irony, though, is that ultimately she's going to be the one to reject Kale.
I think the moral of the story is if a woman or a partner, anyone, comes out of the room second of getting ready, the answer should always be like, oh my God, you look so nice. Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
clearly you spent some extra time going out, and it
Right.
needs to be a very enthusiastic yay.
Yes. So Selena has hired a coach to take her and Kale to dinner. And when they go outside, she sees that the coach is on time. Quote, she threatened to flay the driver and footman alive if they were late. Now, so cute. It's classic Selena. But just this quote tells us how high stakes this is for her,
Mm-hmm.
how much she wants it to be perfect, how much she wants it to go well. And what we see with Selena then is that love and violence go hand in hand. Sounds like some other SJM characters we're familiar with.
Yep.
In this case, though, violence is a safety net for Selena. She's a trained assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Violence is in her nature. And so yes, love, yes, violence, yes, safety. It's all kind of coalescing
Mm-hmm.
because of her nerves. And she doesn't know who to be in this moment.
She's
Is
like,
she going to
I'm so
be,
feminine
yeah,
and I want to kill you, but you can be both. Never limit
yeah.
yourself.
Selena doesn't.
Yeah. We now get to the dinner, and Selena is all in her head. It might not be an Asterian stallion, but she opened this door, stepping aside so he could enter. Selena's super self-conscious here, where she like decorated this entire beautiful patio, and she's just like, I hope that you still like it. I took all this time for you, but I get it. She's saying like, I didn't get you a really expensive horse.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there's a part of her that kind of struggles where like if she was the princess that she was, actually she's a queen, then
Mm-hmm.
she could be able to do so much more for him. She could get him to be free. She could get him all the horses.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who spends her money, who likes nice things, it makes sense that buying gifts is a love language for her that she understands. And she hasn't quite done that here. Yes, she has spent a lot of money on the cook, but it's not something tangible that Kale is going to be able to use over and over again. So I think it makes sense that why she's self-conscious, because this is not necessarily something someone has done for her.
Yeah. I had a thought that we didn't mention in any past episodes, and I don't want it to be connected to gifts. However, we got a P.O. box.
Can we save that for the end?
No, I think it works out well here. I want to let the people know here and now. I'm just saying we should add that in general. And
Yes.
not that you guys need to send us gifts. It's actually meant so that we can send you things and not have our own personal addresses. But like, let's continue.
You can find it on the website.
Yes. Let's get into the description of the dinner. And I have 2 quotes I want to look at here. The first one, quote, "The roof of the apothecary was an enclosed glass greenhouse filled with flowers and potted plants and fruit trees that had been hung with little glittering lights. The whole place had been transformed into a garden of an ancient legend." We know that this is happening in the middle of winter. It feels like winter has been happening for a long time here.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Selena is basically giving Kale the gift of light. You know, like they're in this greenhouse, they're in this place that shouldn't even exist. It's a place of legend. It's a place that has no place in this world of Rifthold, right? Not underneath the king, not when everything is cold and dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to look into the second quote. Quote, "It's the Fey Woman's Garden from Raina Goldsmith's song," he said softly. His golden eyes were bright. We know, and Kale knows, how much that story and song impacted Selena. There was a whole thing where Kale looked at Selena crying and he was like, yes, I want some of that. And this is Selena's way of giving Kale that vulnerable part of herself. This is something that she is symbolically giving to Kale, because also, what was it about that song? It was about, I mean, you're about to go more into the night and everything, but it also was about magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of clues about other worldly magical things. And she's like trying to give him some. Be like, hey, it's me.
What Jack was alluding to is that the story from Rena Goldsmith's song we can interpret as very allegorical of Selena and Kale. You know, if you recall, the story's about a knight who fell in love with a woman of extreme power, not because of her power, but because he could see her for who she was. And she fell in love with him because he didn't use her the way everybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
So, Selena, having loved that story, having heard it before, having been reminded of it, and now being with the person who reminds her of the night, she's intentionally recreating that scene. It's basically a profession of love without saying the words, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Kale is so impressed with what Selena has organized for his birthday. He tells her, quote, "It's the greatest gift I've been given in a long time." Now, he doesn't want her to minimize the effort, and he is certainly not minimizing her effort either. And we have to recall that's because he hasn't been cared for in this way for a very, very long time. He sincerely believes those who loved him most, his mother or his brother, have abandoned him. So it is no surprise, and as we see throughout this scene, that he values Selena and that value and appreciation continues to grow because how much she sees him and notices him. And yet somehow he still takes it for granted.
I don't think Kale takes it for granted. I don't think Kale has the emotional wherewithal or capability to understand the gravity.
I'm not trying to be anti
No.
Kale.
We've proven ourselves here as being a very Kale forward podcast. And Selena's been comparing herself quite a bit to Dorian here, and she brings it up again. Quote, Dorian got you an Asterian stallion. Kale was staring down at his soup, brows high. But Dorian doesn't know what my favorite stew is, does he? He glanced at her and she bit her lip. How long have you been paying attention? If knowledge is power, then Selena's knowledge of Kale gives her more power over Kale than Dorian has over Kale and more power than Kale has over Selena. Because, again, she really knows him.
I think that's a good point, that when we think about it, Dorian can buy as many gifts for Kale as he wants. Kale's always going to feel undeserving because Dorian doesn't really know him the way that Selena does. Selena, she could do the smallest things, but because she knows him, they are of greater value to Kale, which I think speaks to the quality of his character.
I just would like to say, I love the message. I love all of this, yay, she knows him. However, if you were to gift me like a really nice Porsche, and then I had a boyfriend that was like, hey, I got you a dinner that I didn't even make, that I hired other people to make.
And it's exactly your favorite food.
Yeah. Porsche win.
Yes, but in this situation, I am much richer than your boyfriend.
Porsche wins.
That doesn't mean you don't value the dinner that he gets you.
No, not at all. No, I would value it so much. I would so value it. But let's not pretend I wouldn't value the shit out of that Porsche.
What Selena is showing Kale through this dinner is that she pays attention to him. That is something that means a lot to Kale, who's been abandoned by his family and whose profession is to pay attention to others, not to be seen by others. And that, I think, that's what really hits at the heart of it for Kale, is that he has spent his whole life watching other people, that it's hard for him to understand being seen by someone else.
I just made a thought. I just had a thought that goes against my joke, which is so unfortunate because I'm so hilarious. But Dorian's gift to Kale, we immediately see Kale using it to protect Dorian and the king. So Dorian's gift to Kale, although is fancy, it's still functional. It's still a gift for his job. So it's still like a, hey, I got you a Porsche, but it's your job to drive me around.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, chauffeur.
I can't believe you got me that Porsche.
You would love it.
I would. I really would. I'd be the one driving all of us around. I will say one of the best weeks was when my ex and I switched cars. And he had my car and he had a Porsche and I had his car. It was just like, how's it going? I'm like, fine. He goes, have you been keeping to the speed limit? Do you want to ask questions you don't want to know the answer to? So still in this roof, still in this moment, I personally would like to look at one of my favorite moments of symbolism here. So Kale and Selena are on the roof and they're looking out at the view. Quote, she stared towards the distant spot where the Avery met the ocean, Kale beside her, leaning against the iron railing. Now, I want to remind everyone from what we said, I think in like the first episode, that the Avery is a place for Selena's sins to be cleansed and brought into the ocean, because that's where Selena put the heads of the people that she pretended to kill into the sewer that went into the Avery, and she looked at it going into the ocean. And we talked about the ocean being a place that it cleansed her of her sins. And what did we say earlier is that she was wearing a dress that was similar to the sea. I think that it is a nice reminder of cleansing of sins, which is a great symbolic moment that she's about to tell Kale the truth of what she's been doing.
I think that's a really good point. I'm really glad you bring that up, because there is something very, very important about her telling the truth in this moment. specifically because it's outside of the glass castle, the glass palace, and therefore separate from his identity as captain of the guard. Because we know how Kale is when he's in captain of the guard headspace.
Yeah.
He doesn't particularly treat Celaena the way she should be treated. I think there's also significance in the fact that Celaena is telling Kale the truth after she's proven that she sees him for who he is. She also wants to be seen for who she is ultimately.
Yep. That's a good point. I'm happy you think that it's a good point, because when you were taking your notes and you got to that chapter, you said nothing while you sat next to me.
I was really distracted by the documentary we were watching.
Fair. And I was like, oh, what chapter are you on? You're like 24. I'm like, oh, so we're just going to breeze past that then? Celaena reflects on Kale and how his parents did not appreciate him. Quote, that the boy they'd thrown out of their lives had become the sort of man that kings and queens could only dream of having served in their courts. Remember when Celaena thought about Kale when she was like, wow, he is so worthy, almost worthy enough that if Terrasen really existed, then, you know, maybe he should go there and belongs there, if only Terrasen existed. Ugh. At a certain point, though, Kale's going to stop inspiring her, and then she's going to want to keep him for herself. And that's not Kale's fault. But at this moment, he is still inspiring her.
He is. And, you know, she would know that kings and queens would dream of having Kale serve them because she is, in fact, a queen.
She probably thinks, like, he would be a super duper consort. He would be.
Or general. Yeah. Or general. Or anything in her court.
I mean, if she married him and she was queen, he'd be consort.
I know. But the consort just doesn't have, like, a role the way a general does. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Consort general. Yeah.
General consort.
Just in general.
When Celaena tells Kale the truth, she cannot look at him, and she knows inwardly that she is a coward, and she uses that word, coward, when she chooses to look at the Avery instead. And I think it's important that we see Celaena call herself a coward in this irrelevant situation before she talks to Nehemia. Celaena knows that she, yes, in fact, is a coward about things she cares about. Kale being one of them, and telling the truth being one of them.
Oh, good point. I did not think of that.
Take a sip.
Take a sip for all of our listeners, too. Everyone stay hydrated. Again, we're the only podcast that cares about your hydration.
It is the summer. It is getting warmer. And you know what?
Or it's the winter.
For us, it's the summer. But in the winter,
we have Australian listeners.
I know. All I'm saying is we are physically in summer.
I will say some of our Australian listeners had some notes about us calling it spring and summer book club.
That's fair. You know what? I was being exclusionary. That was not inclusive. What do we call it then?
I don't know. I honestly had no answer. I was like, good point. Can't promise I'll change.
Yeah, I think it just has to be 2026 book club part 1.
No.
2026 book
we
club
need to
part 2.
be more clever than that. Australian listeners, if you don't want us to be calling it spring and summer book club, and we need a way of differentiating the 2 book clubs the 2 to 3 book clubs we have in a year, you guys come up and tell us something. You come tell us something. Yeah.
It could be like Jupiter season. Do something astrology. We're in Jupiter season right now.
All right. I think it's a great idea.
I'm trying to find something universal here.
It's world part 1. Yeah. Yeah. No, we're putting this on them. They don't want seasons. Then tell us something else, please. We now enter chapter 23, and Celaena tells Kale about the truth, and he freaks out, which I think is funny because she ends the previous chapter calling herself a coward, because this is Kale's thoughts. Quote, because there was no possible way that she could be that brash, that foolish and insane, and idealistic and brave. brave being the keyword. This would be such a me thing of like being like, I'm ignoring everything you're saying and I am going in onto that brave there. But I think it's because right now, Kale understands honor. He understands that with honor, a lot of times you need bravery. And this confession is going to rock him and his own personal moral code.
Yes, we're going to see a lot of conflict in Kale, but it is funny. This is one of those moments where you see how personality, experience bring different interpretation. Because when I read that sentence, my note was, oh, so he never thought she could be brave.
One of us wants to pick a fight. The other one only hears the one positive thing in there.
One's an optimist, one's a pessimist. I wonder which one is which.
Selective hearing.
So Kale is super conflicted, as Jack pointed out. And we can tell that difference just between the words he says versus the thoughts he has. So Kale is literally yelling at her, have you lost your senses completely? But at the same time, thinking about her in her spectacular dress that he wants to take off. So despite Kale yelling and being in this state of panic and fear, we still see his attraction for Selena, which is important because they get it on tonight.
Yeah, he's like, God, I'm so worried and mad at you, but you're being so honorable and I'm so horny for that.
Yeah.
Selena challenges him when Kale calls the targets traitors, right? He's coming up with everything he can of what the king has been telling him, right? And Selena says, quote, traitors? For refusing to grovel before a conqueror, for sheltering escaped slaves trying to get home, for daring to believe in a world that's better than this godforsaken place. Like, and again, that's kind of hard to argue with. That's kind of hard for someone to be like, oh, you're right. Maybe they're not traitors. And that's a moral code that Kale can get on board with.
Right. She is so smart to appeal to that fundamental part of his character. And quite frankly, she's saying the things about the king that Kale has never uttered before, that he's never really acknowledged. And she's just like, oh no, we're not skirting around this one.
Yeah. No, not at all. And Selena continues to push, quote, I will not be his butcher. And he hadn't want her to. From the second she'd been crowned champion, he'd been sick at the thought of her doing what the king had commanded she do. But this, you swore an oath to him. Kale's so confused because he's like, okay, yes, I don't want you to go and like kill strangers, but an oath, Selena, you swore an oath. Does that mean nothing for you? And that's because it's his own personal code and what's right is all over the place. It does not make sense, right? Okay, so you're not killing people. That's a good thing, but you swore an oath and that's a bad thing. And it is the first time I feel like Baby Boy is having some very complex thoughts and is being challenged for this. He is very black and white. That has been very much a Kale thing. And especially when you think that the idea of there is good, there is bad, that should be a very clear, moral to stand by, but that's not always the case here. But again, it comes back to the fact that Kale is struggling with how Selena swore an oath, and it's the oath that matters more that she broke. And I want to say that the reason why the oath matters more to Kale is because later on, after they have sex, Kale is going to be awake, staring at her body, and he's going to swear oath after oath. He says that to himself, oath after oath. So again, oaths mean a lot to Kale.
Which is interesting. And I am going to go on a little bit of a tangent to bring up Dorian, because early in the last chapter, Dorian says he can't trust anyone. Kale is his best friend. Kale has sworn an oath to protect Dorian, but Dorian doesn't trust Kale enough with the truth about his magical ability because Kale is so black and white.
And Kale swore an oath to the king.
Yes,
not
to the
crown.
Dorian.
Yeah.
To the crown. And so oaths do mean a lot, so much so that not even Dorian, his best friend, trusts Kale. So it's meaningful that Selena is willing to take this jump. And I don't blame her for being nervous because although this is exactly what Kale wanted, Kale's honor and his definition of honor is the default,
Yep.
is the only correct answer. And so what we're seeing right now is his definition of honor in tension and combating against Selena's actions of
Mm-hmm.
honor, right? I don't know that Kale would ever think to describe Selena as honorable by his pure definition, but he can't deny that she's honorable if he looks at her actions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because at the end of the day, he is still stuck on her title of assassin. But
Mm-hmm.
the moment that her title as Aelin Galathinius comes into play, we don't really get much time with him in that, with him knowing that information. But suddenly, honor is on the table, right?
Yep.
Because a princess, a queen can be honorable.
Yep.
Selena at this moment says again that she wants to be a normal girl. This is a sentiment that she's expressed. I didn't realize how many times she would express this in this book, but she's done it quite a bit.
Yep.
Quote, live my life. I guess I started mid-sentence. Like she wants to live my life, I suppose. Live it the way I want to. For once, learn how to be a normal girl. So we know that the desire to be a normal girl is not there's so much meaning to that with Selena because there's a destiny, there's an entire kingdom, there is a responsibility, and it is not necessarily to just be like, I just want to go live in a farm with you and start a little mom and pop shop and make soap and sell it to people at the farmer's market. Like that's not what she's craving. What she's craving is not destiny.
Exactly. Look, we were on the same wavelength
Yeah.
because Selena is doing everything to ignore the call to action, the instructions that Elena has given her, the things Nikimia wants her to do.
Mm-hmm.
Being normal makes all of those things impossible.
Yeah.
And so naturally, Selena wants to be a normal girl.
Yep. I think the desire for normal, though, is what is going to take her away from feeling like Kale inspires me and he could
Mm.
be the thing that makes Harrison great again to I want to run away with him. I want to hide. So it that desire, that specific thing is the one that changes it as well for their relationship. The idea of for on Kale's side though, the idea of losing Selena, that's what shakes him up. And that's what gets him thinking about things differently. Quote, perhaps my duties aren't what I expected them to be. The king kept things from him. There were so many secrets, and perhaps he was a little more than a puppet, part of the illusion that he was starting to see through. Wow, revelations left and right. Seeing Selena step up and be brave and be honorable is what's making him find the courage to be brave and honorable as well. And between Kale and Dorian this episode, there's just so much breakthrough. There's just so much, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not enough, unfortunately.
It isn't enough because they're so unaccustomed to seeing the truth for what it is.
Yeah.
Kale still managed to assume the worst of Selena, even though he didn't want to,
Mhm.
in terms of her killing the targets that the king sent her to assassinate. Kale has been willfully ignorant
Mhm.
when it comes to the king and has chosen to shut out the things he doesn't understand or he doesn't like. It's telling to me that it's only when there's the threat of losing Selena
Mhm.
that Kale starts to see truth,
Yeah.
which mirrors the end of the novel when she leaves for Wendelin.
Yeah. They finally fucking kiss. I feel so cheated of how short their time together really is.
Yep.
I
Yep.
feel so cheated.
Yep.
Quote, the kiss obliterated her. It was like coming home or being born or suddenly finding an entire half of herself that had been missing. If not mate, why mate shape?
One thing I ask myself often in this episode is this just the folly of youth?
Mm,
Is this just what it means to be 18 years old?
yeah. I will say, I mean, I think about the one day, hopefully have kids, hopefully have a daughter, and just being like, hey, baby girl, you're going to think you're in love with your first. You're going, and you probably will
Mhm.
be, but that obsession that comes with youth, that comes with
Yep.
being shocked that someone, like just that first time of everything, it's very overwhelming.
Yep.
to be to be young and dumb and listening to so many depressing songs when you can be older and wiser and still listen to depressing songs. We are now in Selena's point of view, and her takeaway from all of this is, quote, he would give everything up to go with her. So at this point, Kale's like, yeah, I'm in, bro. I'll do this with
Mhm.
you. You go, I go. You jump, I jump. A la Titanic. And she needs to know that he's willing to go with her. That's the moment where everything changes for her. But again, him giving everything up is not the same as her giving everything up. This is not an equal opportunity of giving everything up. She would give up a country, of helping Ilway, of helping a number of people that aren't even in her own country. He is giving up disappointing, or the king might want to kill him, but he's giving up like not as much as her. And
Mhm. Mhm.
so when Selena's like, oh my God, he's willing to give things up too, I don't think she's able to make that connection of saying it's not the same thing,
Right.
which is important to make because it's then her assuming it means the same thing to him.
Yep.
I think Selena not making this connection or realizing how disproportionate it is that their sacrifices are different will be a part of what plays into their demise.
I agree.
Because if Kale is willing to sacrifice everything in her mind, then she should too. And that's where it goes into, right? So what she hears is Kale saying, yeah, I'll give everything up. And she's like, well, this is an equal household. I too will give everything up. And that's not the case. Like, you're now moving away from him being an inspiration to him being the reason why you're ditching everything. We're building up to Selena and Kale having sex. And this is a reminder that this is Selena's first time having sex. Quote, she moaned and dragged him through the greenhouse, down the stairs and into the carriage, waiting outside. This language is very intentional from SJM's part. She is showing that Selena is very much in control. She's the one who's dragging him. She's the one who's pulling him. She'll be the one to bring him into her room, as it should be, right? Like,
Right.
she should be the one in control. But I just like when writing makes little points and you don't have to spend a big to do about Selena being like, I am finally in control for once in my life. Although we do get a little bit of that, but you don't have to make a big to do. Because Selena makes the choice about having sex, and there is a very specific moment when she's like, yep, this is about to happen. Quote, she had waited once, waited with Sam, and then it had been too late. But now there was no doubt, no shred of fear or uncertainty, as if every moment between her and Kale had been a step in a dance that had led to this threshold. Very much in control. Sex is
Mhm.
power, choice is power, but I also want to point out threshold. We set this in every single analysis we've done with SJM, but typically in writing, thresholds are very significant. It's usually a way to signal the reader that change is coming. There's a big shift that's about to happen. So, of course, Elena would make this choice at the threshold.
Right. And this is also something about the threshold is like once you're past the threshold, you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
You've metaphorically crossed onto the other side and there's no turning back, which is super important because I do wonder if Nehemiah's death had happened before Selena and Kale had sex, would Selena have reacted the way she reacted? I
No.
think she would have been quicker to forgive Kale
Yeah.
in a way that now that she's past the threshold, she will not be able to because she has given herself over completely. We also get this lovely referral back to this dance that Kale and Selena have been engaged in since the start of Throne of Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Their first fight during training was called a dance. We had the dance at the ball that just happened an episode or two, I can't remember, ago. And then we have the third act of this dance. And once again, if we tie dance to swordplay, which Selena often does, we're seeing the culmination of art and violence and sex all going hand in hand. And so I'm not surprised someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, right? Emotions are high, and she's I don't know why I had because she was talking about like regretting it, and it's like she regrets not having waited. I will say, haven't regretted who I've slept with. There are guys I regret not having slept with. So
As Selena feels as well here.
not because they died. But
That's fair.
so take that, audience, that knowledge, and may you do with it as you will. Someone out there tonight being like, you know what? I will sleep with him or her. I mean, good job. They finally have sex, quote. And then there was only them and skin against skin. And when they reached that moment when there was nothing more between them at all, Selena kissed Kale deeply and gave him everything she had. All things considered, very well written, very YA, good job. But also,
give us some detail.
don't make me scour fan fiction. Actually, don't make me scour fan fiction. Just send me the links on our DMs. So Selena and Kale are now in that morning afterglow. His hands grazed lower down her back, not even stumbling over the scar tissue. He'd kiss every scar on her back, on her entire body last night. Again, we're seeing this moment of Selena giving herself to Kale. Everything, scars and all. Not that Kale's not giving himself to her. He just does not have the same thing to give. He doesn't have the scars to give. He has one murder under his belt, and it was to self-defense. And she's like, hey, would you like a year of slavery? That's another thing that she can give. So she has way more trauma and history than she can even grasp at this moment. And I don't want to just put it on her. It's more than Kale can grasp at this moment. I don't think he understands how much her giving herself to him is such a big deal. Even if he doesn't know the whole history of everything, even what he does know is significantly disproportionate.
I think there's also this added layer of she has more practice with vulnerability. She's had more experience being vulnerable with other people, with being disappointed and recovering from that disappointment. And I think because of that, that also makes her more willing to be vulnerable and to take that chance. And that's something she knows how to do in a way that Kale does not.
Yep. In my opinion, there are moments that shows their disjointedness. Selena tells Kale, quote, honestly, I'm surprised you're not strutting about, boasting to everyone. I certainly would be if I tumbled me. Does your love for yourself know no bounds? Absolutely none. As she should. And as he should, right? Everyone should just be like, woohoo, just got laid. The just got laid parade, as I like to call it. And he should be agreeing, but I feel like that this is a moment that definitely shows their different levels of personality. And I understand teasing someone. I understand that wanting to joke around and keep things light and, oh, Selena's so full of herself. But for me personally, there's something about putting someone's confidence down that is extremely not acceptable. And I think these are just little clues of Kale and Selena not quite being on the same level here.
I see what you're saying. I also had to wonder for a moment if this is just how they've always bantered when they're most comfortable.
Yes.
And so and I'm not, it doesn't necessarily disprove your point. It is just the purest form of them. And at their purest form of them and their relationship, there is still friction.
Yeah. I mean, all of it is in agreement of yes. This is where they just don't quite line up, because this is very much always them. He does tease her about her being full of herself or just eating so much, or do you just always keep eating? Do you always boast?
Mhm.
And each time I never liked it.
Yeah.
So just
Fair.
another thing of like, they don't quite match. The more we get from Selena, the more we see how much she really does care about Kale. Quote, "It had somehow felt it had always been Kale, even from the beginning, even before they met." To me, this is a sign that she cares for Kale much more than she did for Sam. Not that she didn't care for Sam, but again, this is to right now to her, Kale is endgame. This is
Mhm.
how do we leave? We are exit strategy plan from here. And this is her caring about him more than she has anyone else in her life at this moment. And it shows again how much she's willing to give her all to him.
This is again one of those moments where I have to ask myself, is this left over from SJM intending them to be endgame? Or is it just because Selena's just lost her virginity and she's 18 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what the folly of youth looks like. And I don't know the answer. I think it can be both, but there's going to be some things that continue to kind of strike at the meat
Yeah.
feeling of this relationship. And it uses language that SJM uses for all her other mates in her other books.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to call it out that there was a point in time when SJM thought Kale and Selena were going to be together, and that she chose to leave that language in even when she knew that they weren't going to end up together.
Yeah. Yeah. Just sorry, going back to the whole folly of youth, like she is only 18, and it's so easy when you're like, this is the person that she's loved more than anyone else in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's 18.
Yeah.
When do romantic feelings really start? Let's say 12. And would you ever say a 12-year-old really knows what it feels like to deeply love someone romantically? You know what I mean? So versus someone saying that and you've lived a life of experience and you know what it feels like to have cared and loved like people, it's very overwhelming when you're like, I've never felt these emotions. And it's like, well, you never had your brain fully developed. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there are multiple times throughout their sexual encounters, both in the evening and in the morning, where Selena sees the hunger in Kale's eyes when he looks at her. Now, this is a very common use of the word hungry
mhm.
when describing sexual tension. Quote, "The grin Kale gave her was hungry and wicked enough that she shrieked when he yanked her under the blankets." It's cute, but if we talk about it from a power dynamics point of view, sexual hunger, while it is hot, it also has the connotation of Kale wanting to devour Selena, which therefore has the connotation of wanting power over Selena, which is kind of true. They're not, as much as he wants to accept that they're equals in ways, there's something about him that also can't accept that.
Yeah.
We are now in chapter 24, and Dorian has no one to talk to about his magic except, that scary witch out at the carnival, aka Baba Yellowlegs.
He's like, this is a great idea.
This is such a great idea. Let me ask this scary witch to keep my secrets.
Yeah.
So he goes to her. Why? Because he really wants to figure out why he has magic. And he doesn't go immediately, but he finally just gives up and gives in.
Mhm.
And it's because he thinks, quote, he was plagued by magic. And I think that word choice is really, really telling. Magic is a plague, is a disease, and Dorian is infected. So he's really bought in to the mindset of his father, of the rest of Otterlin, that everyone with magic should die. And that's, when that is so fundamental to his thinking,
Yeah.
it's no wonder that he continues to be sick every time he uses his magic.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was any moment of confusion when it comes to Baba Yellowlegs, if there was any moment where a person might be like, I think she might be good. I think that was me throughout when I read it the first time. Yeah, I even throughout her death, I was a Baba Yellowlegs apologist. But SJM is here to tell us, no, pay attention to the clues. She is not a good character. Quote, a chipped plate heaped with roast chicken parts resting on her knee. A pile of clean licked bones littered the ground below. There's a contrast here, a contradiction between the broken plate and the clean bones. So we're starting to see the deadliness. Like, she doesn't care about this plate. What she will care about is how clean these bones are and how she's just going to start eating the marrow. I'm like, oh, that was so, oh, I don't like the visual or the audio that I'm imagining when she cracks a bone and sucks from the marrow.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that Baba Yellowlegs does not care about propriety, but she does care about death in the sense that she wants to cause it.
Mm-hmm. She is meant to come across as creepy, and SJM accomplishes this by paying so much attention to Baba Yellowlegs eating the chicken throughout her conversation with Dorian. She's the one in control the entire time. When we think about food is power,
Mm-hmm.
she's the one eating, she's the one breaking those chicken bones, and Dorian, rightly so, is like creeped out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read some of those lovely quotes. The chicken leg cracked in two. He tried to not cringe at the slurping sounds as she sucked out the marrow. Great use of alliteration, or in this case, sibilance, because it starts with an S at the beginning of the word. She picked up a chicken wing. Crack, crunch. She peeled the skin off the breast of the chicken and guzzled it down, smacking her weathered lips together.
No one needed that. No one needed that.
I am confident Dorian is thinking about basically how this witch could eat him alive.
Yeah. It's gross. I don't like it. Still not, I still don't hate her though. But wait, there's more. Quote, she smelled atrocious, like mildew and rotted blood. Making it very clear that Baba Yellowlegs is part of death. She is so not good that her blood itself is rotting. The clone, again, the bones might be clean, but she is rotting from the inside. And it's almost like SJM's like, hey guys, I'm going to set up a character and make them so creepy or so evil that it's going to be okay that Selena kills them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just a nice little clue of, if, like, maybe that should have been the first sign that Selena was going to kill them or kill Baba Yellowlegs, because it's like, hey, look at this creepy hoe.
Yeah.
Don't we
yeah.
want her to die?
Yeah.
Dorian.
She basically threatened to eat Dorian alive. She didn't.
Oh yeah, you're right, huh?
She doesn't.
No, but it's
you
kind of implied.
It's implied.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Dorian, though, is trying to be sneaky and smooth, and he is neither of these things, nor will he ever be either of those things. Quote, he gave her a playful, wounded smile that had the old woman rolling her eyes. She made him want to run in the other direction, but he had to get through this. It's really amazing how much Dorian really relies on his charm as a weapon, as a self-defense, as the last reinforcement he possibly could have. And it's very similar to Selena, but the difference is Selena has a number of tools at her disposal. Charm is just one of them. Dorian, on the other hand, that's really all he's got. And I think that relying on his charm in a moment like this makes him more vulnerable because of how obvious of a lack of tools he has.
Right. And like, charm just has no power when you're facing someone who is a witch who has the ability to flay you alive.
Which is funny because he will charm a different witch. But we're not saying anything.
We're not there yet.
No. God, I can't wait though. Take a sip, listener.
During Dorian's conversation with Baba Yellowlegs about how one could hypothetically have magic, asking for a friend, she emphasizes that he's asking the wrong questions since no one on the continent can access their magic. Quote, oh, wait, I need to do this in my Baba Yellowlegs voice.
Everyone gather
Quote.
round. Amy's about to do her Baba Yellowlegs voice.
Quote, even the surviving... I just...
I'm not looking at you.
Apparently I'm too tired for this.
No. I think you can... Hey, kitties.
Quote, even the surviving Fae can't access their powers. Even my head is shaking. Like, okay, let me be normal. Some of them remain trapped in their animal forms. Miserable wretches. Taste like animals, too. She laughed, a crow's caw that made the hair on the back of his neck rise. Now, it's interesting that SJM uses the use of crow as the metaphor here to describe Baba Yellowlegs, because crows have dual meanings. On one hand, there's intelligence and prophecy, which we have seen from Baba Yellowlegs. She said, you know, your fate is coming from you in a couple chapters ago.
Your fate is for you.
Yes. I couldn't remember the exact quote.
You said
so
from.
thank you. Oh, I thought I said for.
So you say the words correctly so often. This happens not at all.
In my head, I heard this happens plenty of times when I'm tired. I hear what I think I
welcome
said.
to my world. Again, you are me now.
Yep. So the other side of the crow meaning is death and trickery, which also feels appropriate for Baba Yellowlegs. Dorian becomes increasingly uncomfortable being around the witch. Quote, against his will, he found himself reaching for the ancient force slumbering inside him, wondering if it would somehow shield him from Yellowlegs the way it had from the shattering window. The thought made him queasy. So again, Dorian accessing his power highlights his weakness, even though it provides him strength.
Yeah. He just is not. This wasn't his brightest moment. That's fine.
No, it really wasn't.
He's pretty, and that's what matters. We are now in Celaena's point of view. As I keep saying, Celaena is giving Chaol everything, but now she's starting to give up the honor that she was gaining just by his proximity. So in this moment, Celaena is thinking about the rebels, and she's just thinking, like, maybe I can give some information to the king. Maybe I can negotiate to get out of this deal sooner. And she thinks, quote, so maybe she wouldn't even have to do anything. Maybe she wouldn't have to risk her life or Chaol's. Maybe, just maybe, whatever their motives, these people could find a way to stop the king and free all of Aurelia as well. The shift is here. The shift is that she wants others to do her job. Again, these rebels. So she is thinking, maybe if I give up some of the rebel names, the king will get off my back and I can get out of this deal sooner. / maybe some of these rebels are the ones who will actually take care of the job. But she just wants to run away with Chaol because, again, she's trying to match what he's matching, and that's giving up everything.
Right. And Chaol has already consented to it. If you run away, I'll run away with you. If you want to be normal, I want to be normal with you.
Mm-hmm.
And she's hoping to have her cake and eat it too in this instance. She wants others to do the hard work so she can run away and be with Chaol. And it's getting away from her truest self, which is what you've been saying, Jack. It's getting away from the honor she was developing, the honor that is inherent to her royal bloodline and the court from which she comes. Instead, it's creating a mindset and it's setting her up for her fight with Nehemia.
Yeah. Now, this is totally a moment of youth, right? Like, I would not expect anything less from 18-year-old Celaena here. Again, as we're about to get into more sex scenes, they are all in their late 20s, early 30s in my mind. But in this moment, she's 18. And that is the fact that if she was really planning on running away with Chaol, of giving it all up, of having him sacrifice everything, she would need to be honest about her true identity.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something, like, if she was really truly ready to, if he is the one, if that is the person that you are ride or die, like, this is it, you are my person, then you have to be willing to tell them the truth. It's not fair for Chaol to take off for her, to take off with her, because then if her true identity is exposed, suddenly he's now in danger of everything. And, you know, it's hard because it's like, hey, I need to tell you something that you have to keep to yourself, but it's also like, you may want to break up with me for it. So like,
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe figure out some kind of word mark blood oath situation you can have here. But it is an unfortunate thing because I feel like this is the moment where she should be telling him, and she's trying to not just run away from her responsibilities, but from the truth she should be telling Kale as well.
Because we've said it in other books where the gender roles have been reversed,
Yeah.
right? Where the man has been withholding his identity. And what did we say? You can't be
You can't consent.
consenting
Yeah.
to someone who's withholding their identity. And so, in some ways, Selena has taken, I mean, actually, just plainly, Selena has taken
Yeah.
advantage of Kale because he only knows a mask.
Yeah.
He does not know her.
She has taken away his ability to fully consent to their life together, and that is unfortunate. It's more than just sex at this point, right? We
Mhm.
talk about with other characters, normally it's the man who's like, I'm actually the evil prince that's meant to kill you, surprise. But that's not the case here. It's almost worse because it's like she's not trying to do a one-time hookup thing. She's trying to get him to, I mean, she's not trying to get him to do anything, but he is willing to give up his entire life for her.
Mhm.
You cannot consent to that. You cannot do something like that and not have him be fully informed.
Right.
Okay. For the following moment, again, 28, 34, we'll say that. They're not these ages. We now get to the famous and wonderful broom closet scene. And this point, Selena just goes like they're fucking, right? A week has passed.
Mhm.
A
I think 4
cruel week,
days.
huh?
4 days.
It's just so unfair that we not only are they not together that long, we don't get to have any of this. I
Mhm.
feel cheated and deprived in many ways. So she goes and pulls him out of a meeting just so they can bone. And like they're like, okay, we don't have time to make it back to your place. Quick, this broom closet. Quote, Kale's blood roared through him. He followed her into the closet and wedged a broom beneath the handle. Show us the closet. I have questions. Is it her back against the wall? Is it her front against the wall?
I just want to know.
Yeah. Saddest. I won't I won't be this sad again about this type of thing until a certain other two characters that will come much later down the road.
Yeah.
And that will devastate me as well. Again, send me fanfics, people. We are now about to get into the big argument between Selena and Nehemia. And this is going to be their last conversation. And I think there's a reason why it all goes downhill. And I think it's because Selena's happy. Quote, I'm happy for you, my friend. Selena smiled back. I think I'm happy for me too. And she was. For the first time in years, she was truly happy. I don't feel like Nehemia would have gone in this hard on her if Selena didn't have joy, which
Mhm.
is already a shit thing to say. I don't think Nehemia is a good friend. I don't think she's a good person. I don't think she's a good character. I don't blame Nehemia. I blame SJM having written a half-assed character. But I'm going to go in on Nehemia now because I can't go in on SJM. So please know that I know all those things. Selena doesn't get to be happy. This isn't a matter of destiny, and it's not a matter of how Nehemia can combine Selena's happiness with destiny, right? There's no pitching things to her. There's no
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm so happy for you, bestie. Kill seems like a great guy. He really seems like the kind of guy that would love a rebellion, you know? So honorable, that Kale. So honorable. He would love to free some eel way slaves. But that's not what she's doing. She immediately takes it to a very dark place. She
Very
resents
dark.
her.
She does. And which is so odd for a character that went out of her way to tell Dorian, don't get in the way of Selena and Kale.
Yeah.
Who has gone out of her way to see these two together.
Yeah.
And is it because it's bad writing, which I think to some degree it is, but it is also, I think, motivated by the fact that Selena's happiness makes her complacent with where the state of the world is.
Yeah.
And that is fundamentally against Nehemiah's wishes and wants for her people. So, what is Nehemia going to do? She's immediately going to challenge Selena's happiness, even though she's just said, I'm so happy for you, my friend. And she has to do this by making Selena swear to free the people of Ilway.
Yeah,
It's just not the time or place.
It's so not the time or place. I mean, I understand being frustrated that the happiness has made Selena complacent. As you said, Amy, 4 days have passed. Not much. I mean, when you're saying, like, why is this the Nehemia that made Dorian swear not to do anything? And maybe at a certain point, Nehemia was potentially even planning on breaking up this relationship between the two of them to help inspire her. Who knows? But I want to further prove why Nehemia is resentful of Selena. As we were saying, it's about these Ilway slaves. Nehemia says, quote, when the king invaded Ilway all those years ago, I knew that I would someday have to make a choice that would haunt me. She cupped her forehead in a palm. I didn't think it would be this hard. Nehemia is not thinking about Selena right now. Nehemia is thinking about the slaves, but also about herself, of thinking, holy shit, this is now a lot harder for me. I am a ruler, I am a leader, and I'm going to have to make a very hard choice with something that's going to stay on her mind, on her shoulders for years to come. All valid. But that's not a reason why you go in hard on your friend because of it. It's not like Selena has a choice in any of those things. It works, though, because then Selena starts feeling guilty. Quote, she spent the week lost in thought of Kale. Nehemia had spent her week trying to balance the fate of her kingdom, and Selena had clues littering the ground at her feet, clues that might help Nehemia in her cause against the king, and command from Elena that she'd practically ignored. All this has to be is a moment of like, wow, I need to get my act together. That's it. That's all this needed to be. And it still could have just been that way if fucking Elena didn't get involved either, you know, like that hoe.
I have so much to say when we get to chapter 25.
Yeah. Fuck that bitch. Anyway, I love my fuck ring. The one last thing that I kind of want to talk about this before Amy continues with this quote is just the idea of fate and desiring something versus happiness and peace. And there is such a battle between what is fate and what is desiring. You know, we're going to get into it later where Elena's like, nah, she can handle it. And that's cruel because there is a world where destiny and fate can happen with happiness as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I can maybe understand why people aren't interested in reading fantasy in general.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes fate and happiness do not go hand in hand. Fate is delayed gratification, but like with so much suffering and war and fighting and pain, where, you know, you don't even know if the characters can enjoy peace or happiness from moment to moment or appreciate the little things. And life isn't that way. Life is about finding happiness in the journey.
There's been a few books as of late, and I can't spoil which one it is or any of these are, but I will say I feel like there's been an uptick in trends where we get the main male love interest, the fated interest in the first book, and they're solid. It's not like the rest of the books, or I mean, as far as we know, it's not like the future books ends up being like, oh, like what's going to happen to their relationship, which I still love those, don't get me wrong, but kind of what you're saying is like, you know, fate is delayed gratification. I think where it's like I can appreciate the concept of fate and like the pains that these characters have to go through. I just want them, like, if you're going to do that, give them one happy thing, like, and make that a romantic partner or something. Not in SJM's world. No. We just hurt. The series is depressing.
Yeah, absolutely. So continuing the quote from Nehemia, quote, Nehemia took her hand. Promise me, she said, her dark eyes shining, promise me that you'll help me free Ilway from him because your needs are greater than hers.
Yeah.
And maybe ultimately it's the honorable thing. Maybe it's the right thing. Maybe that's fate. But of course, Selena's answer is going to be no. Like, what has ever shown you that Selena would say yes? She's always said no. She's
Yeah.
always skirted around the topic.
And what has Nehemia ever done to help the answer be yes?
Right.
Other than shame her,
Nag.
other than nag, other than
Yep.
everything else, and trying to guilt her of like, well, now I can't tell my parents about you because you
Yeah.
suck.
This is a very poorly written character. Or maybe it's a very well written character who's just a really shitty person. Like,
And
I
if
can't
that's the
tell.
case, then fucking don't make it the one person of color.
Yeah.
That's the other. I mean, we will always acknowledge and admit how and agree with how unbelievably screwed up that is. But yeah, it's I think what also is frustrating about it is that how martyred Nehemia becomes in Selena's
Mm-hmm.
mind. And from what I can remember, I don't think there's really like a full wow, Nehemia kind of sucked moment
Yeah.
from Selena. It ends up being like, no, my wonderful friend, who did no wrong and I screwed up and oh my god, like I ruined everything. And it's like, were we not part of the same conversation, Selena? Because I'm
Yeah.
reading it and you didn't have to feel that guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Nehemia really starts to panic and she like we know she's asking her to look after the Eelway, look after the Eelway people. And that's because she's having a one-sided conversation. Quote, promise me that you'll see my father's crown restored to him, that you'll see my people returned from Endovir and Caliculla. I'm just an assassin. There is no other way. Eelway must be freed. And with you helping me, we could start to gather a host to... No, Nehemia blinked, but Selena shook her head. Not for all the world would I help you muster an army against him. You barely got a taste of the kind of brutality he unleashed elsewhere. You raise a force against him, and he'll butcher you. I won't be a part of that. It's so unfair it's like, not only, it's like, hey, can you free my people, restore
Mm-hmm.
the crown to my father,
Mm-hmm.
also, don't forget my other people in these other camps. Also, can you gather a host, an army? And I really feel like Selena saying no to her is jarring to Nehemia because Nehemia is a princess and isn't used to
Mm-hmm.
being told no. So
Right.
I find this to be the first time Selena's actually standing up for herself when it comes with Nehemia. This is the first time that she's saying no. You weren't there. You don't know the trauma of what I
Mm-hmm.
went through, of what everyone else went through. I can't do that again, and I'm not going to help you go through that. And Nehemia isn't asking Selena, though, like to be like, hey, assassin, come help me with this. She's saying, like, I'm going to need you to
Mm-hmm.
step into your role as queen. I'm going to need you to gather an army, which now means I need you to be in charge of other people's lives. I need you to be in charge of other people dying for you. That's what Nehemia is asking. That is a hell of a lot to ask.
It's wild to me that Nehemia flat out is ignoring Selena's trauma
Yeah.
when Selena doesn't know that Nehemia has perfect knowledge of the trauma.
Yeah.
Right? Nehemia is the one other person in the kingdom who understands what Selena's been through because she knows who she
Yeah.
truly is. And yet Nehemia's like, it's fine. You just need to try.
But like, did you even try? But did
Yeah.
you even try? I mean, what would have it hurt at this point in the conversation to reveal that she knows? Is that another
Yeah,
fucking Elena thing that she said? Don't tell her that you know?
probably.
Probably. I'm mad.
I am too.
This isn't going to get better.
Nope. So, from Selena's point of view, the reason why she will not help Nehemia is because the proof is in Terrason's downfall. Quote, they were the strongest court on the continent. They were the strongest court on any continent, and he killed them. Now, SJM is very smart. We've heard this from Nehemia previously. We've even seen it from Dorian's point of view recently when he was in the library. So we do believe Selena in this moment when she says it. So, that being the case, if the king of Otterland can destroy the strongest court on the continent, then a princess with some rebels and an assassin aren't gonna cut it.
Right? That's not the most motivational thing of like, hey, this court that everyone says was the strongest court to ever court, but you, my friend, can totally do it. It's unfair, like what is fate? What is destiny? Like what does any of it mean, or what, who's in charge of that? And Selena tells her, quote, I am one person. And then Nehemia says, one person chosen by Queen Elena, one person whose brow burned with a sacred mark on the day of that duel, one person who, despite the odds, is still breathing. Our paths crossed for a reason. If you are not God blessed, then who is? Is it destiny if it's already been decided? Like, I could decide we're going to get sushi today and then go and say, hey, I think it's destiny that we're here. Like who gets to decide that? And I will say, please go to Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks, because I will have a nice little rant for you there. The one-sided conversation to me is very difficult, especially with the lack of knowledge that's being given. As we said before, Nehemia is the one with the most amount of knowledge here. She knows everything. Like, she fucking knows about the word marks. She knows about, like, Selena's past. She knows about Dorian's power. There is knowledge is power. Nehemia is the most knowledgeable one. And this is her manipulating her power over Selena.
And doing it badly.
Doing it very badly. If you're going to have power manipulate people, do it better. Talking about the king, she says, quote, when you look at him, you sense that there's a greater twisted power around him. How did such a man conquer so much of the continent so quickly? Yeah, I mean, valid questions that we should be having, not like this. And again, like, why can't Nehemia tell her about the word stones? And it's fucking Elena. It's fucking, because it's a plot. It's because it's a book. It's not real. Reminding myself this, centering myself for that, because I think that I just struggle so much with that of like, why does any of this have to remain a secret when you could just try to tell the person, then you can go plan your murder. Don't say, I didn't want to say go kill yourself, but like go plan your own murder. Okay.
Yeah.
Let that be, hear me out. I think that should be plan C. Just saying.
Or Z.
So many other plans can happen. I will say, though, I do think that in all of this, as much as it annoys me, SJM is really good at, as an author, asking herself, the reader, the characters, certain questions. And one of those questions is, what is the right thing to do? Nehemia tells Selena, quote, you will not help because all you care about is yourself. And so what if I do? Selena splayed her arms. So what if I want to spend the rest of my life in peace? What's the right thing? Like, what does it make someone when they choose differently? Like, we've talked about this. I think it was like the first episode, because I just edited that one that came out this past week. But we talk about like the privilege of not caring, the privilege of being able to say, I don't want to be a part of this. And I talk about having that moral social code of, we're technically all obligated, I believe, to try to help one another. But, and that's easier said than done. And we know the right thing is for Selena to go step up and, help everyone. But again, I don't know. I just, this ain't it.
No, it's a lot to ask an 18-year-old.
Absolutely. And I don't think the answer is traumatize her more.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, we get some of the harshest words from someone that anyone can say to anyone.
Quote, for being their last words.
For them being their last words. Quote, I didn't realize that you were just a coward. Selena looked over her shoulder. Say that again. Nehemia didn't flinch. You're a coward. You are nothing more than a coward. Selena's fingers clenched at her fist. When your people are lying dead around you, she hissed, don't come crying to me. Is Nehemia a coward for not being willing to trust Selena and go against Elena? Maybe that's a good fucking question to ask.
That is a good question. I am not defending Nehemia.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
don't worry.
I am not defending Nehemia, but in some ways, Selena fighting back in this moment could be because she does feel like a coward,
Yeah, yeah,
because it is her darkest secret and hates that she is that way and has been called out for it.
yes,
So, is Nehemia wrong to call Selena a coward? I don't necessarily think so, but I do think Nehemia is wrong in general.
yeah,
We've talked about how she's being impatient. Like, Ilway's been enslaved for a while. An 18-year-old's delay of a week because she's having sex for the first time is a small drop in the bucket in the
yeah,
grand scheme of things.
yeah,
And this goes back to the writing. Ultimately, SJM needed to raise the stakes and put pressure on Selena so that Nehemia could ultimately sacrifice herself so that Selena would start her journey.
yeah.
However, not necessarily well done.
On one hand, we could be like, wow, we're feeling so many emotions. She did such a good job. This is how we're supposed to be feeling conflicted. I could say true. However, the ripple effects of Selena just not really coming to this conclusion that Nehemia was super at fault too is what doesn't really save it. Now, maybe she does in a future book, and I just don't remember that. If that's the case, please remind us in a nice, gentle way. But I I really feel like this was not executed well. And you could
No.
have hit the same emotions. You could have
Mm-hmm.
hit the same argument. You could have hit the same high stakes. It just does not. You would need a certain payoff that I don't see in this book and I don't remember in future books.
Yeah. I think if I was SJM's editor, and I won't belabor this point, because I do think there's a reason why Selena leaves Rifthold as it's starting to become spring. I think there's
Yeah.
symbolism in that.
Yep.
So I understand maybe having a tight timeline. However, there needed to be greater stakes for Nehemia to be as impatient as she is.
Yes.
Maybe her parents have been kidnapped. They're being threatened to be killed. And, there's got to be something more
Yeah.
than the status quo for Nehemia to overreact the way she's reacting.
The answer to all of this is develop Nehemia as a character.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, but that comes into what you're saying of adding the higher stakes for her, right?
Yeah.
Because then you start having her be a more developed character, right? Like then it ends up being, we have these things, like we know she's trying to win over the queen of Aderlin. We know that there's some other stuff, but we don't have those super high stakes beyond the high stakes, right? Like we need the thing, like why is there a fire underneath her that's making her reckless now? Right? Because
Yeah.
this is reckless. This is not a thought out person. And I don't know enough about Nehemia to know if she is a reckless person. Like this is what I'm getting from her. So yeah, I can guess that she's reckless, but at the same time, she's normally so put together and
Yeah.
the wise one. So if Nehemia was a better, like if we were SJM's editor, how do we save this, right? Because that might be someone who's listening and be like, you guys are just complaining and you're not offering a solution. The solution is make her a character that this makes that sense
Mm-hmm.
and give us a reason beyond, oh, I'm just now remembering that I have all these people that I'm in charge of.
Yeah. Take a sip?
Yeah, take a sip. We are now in the shortest fucking beautiful chapter, which is funny because it's the one I hate the most. And it's Elena telling Nehemia to get things in motion in order to get Selena moving. Now, it's all done in a very smart way, right? The queen said to the princess, I can't tell if I knew right off the bat, like, this is Nehemia and Elena, but in hindsight, it's like, oh, I know exactly what's happening.
Right.
Quote, one of them has to break, the queen said to the princess. Only then can it begin. All right, well, we're talking about Dorian and Selena. And that's unfortunate. Like at that point, does it even matter who?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, we're coming back to this destiny and this fate, and it could have been Dorian. It
Yeah.
could very much have been Dorian, and Selena could have had been, you know, riding more cruise control for all of this. But I feel like this emphasizes why it did not actually have to just be Selena. Also, like, why break? Let's try honesty. Hear me out.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe share your knowledge.
Maybe we share knowledge. Like, that's a writing preference maybe that I just need to remember in my own writing, that I will always ask, why can't they be honest? And if there is an answer, I need that clear. Elena says that even though this will devastate Selena, it's fine because Selena always will find a way back, because that's just what she always does. She's like, hey, she's gone through a lot of fucked up shit, but it's fine because she survived and she can go through more fucked up shit.
Mm.
I just had a memory of one of the particularly horrible things that she goes through in the future, and it made me sad because this is Elena saying it's fine, she'll come around.
She'll survive.
She'll survive, and no one gives Selena the full truth in order for her to make an informed decision. Like, we will never know what it's like for Selena to to be willing to step up or not. And then traumatize her. God. Knowledge is power, and they're withholding power from Selena, and yet they want her to take the power as the role of queen. And they're no different than the people who just want to manipulate her and use her as a puppet, because they don't care about her power. Because if they cared about her power, they would give her knowledge.
Yep. Yep. Ultimately, everyone just wants to use her as a symbol and the antithesis to Otterlin and the king.
Yep.
And it is messed up. And there's a reason Aelin does what she does at the end of Kingdom of Ash as a big fuck you to everybody, that I appreciate, because she really, really drew the short straw in life.
Yeah.
But she didn't know she was drawing straws. It's just awful. Now, before we move on to chapter 26, I have to read this line because I forgot this and it made me really, really mad. So this is the queen, or Elena, who is saying, quote, "Then do you understand what I am asking of you?" The princess looked up toward the shaft of moonlight spilling into the tomb. When she looked back at the ancient queen, her eyes were bright. Yes. Then Elena again says, "Then do what needs to be done." Elena has asked Nehemia to sacrifice herself. It's not Nehemia willfully choosing this. I remember them having the conversation.
I think that's what I've been saying.
No. So I remembered Nehemia and Elena having this conversation. I always thought it was Nehemia choosing, not Elena asking.
No, it was always Elena. I remember, that was the one thing I do remember. It was Elena fucking, which again is more bullshit of Nehemia, just to be like, so when I was saying earlier, like, she doesn't go against Elena's order, when it's like, but you're willing to blindly follow her and sacrifice yourself and to let yourself die over this, like, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And it's more fucked up of Elena, because Elena's trash.
Elena is trash. And she doesn't have to deal with the consequences because she's dead.
No, you just have to keep waiting for the next one. Like, oh, this one doesn't work out. Wait for the next descendant to come around.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm mad.
I don't like Elena.
No. Or
Elena's
Nehemia,
dead to me.
Nehemia doesn't, like, that's another thing where, like, who is the coward? And Selena, at every end of her own journey as a heroine, as an FMC, has been willing to push back, right? The king says, "Go kill these people," and she says, "No, I'm gonna do something else." Elena tells Nehemia, "Go sacrifice yourself," and Nehemia says, "Okay," and yet she's going to say that Selena's the coward.
And there's something really, really, really fucked up about this white woman telling the only POC character go kill yourself.
Hey, and that's another trope that we see time and time again in books, in movies, in media in general, where POC characters, oftentimes women, female
Mhm.
POC characters, have to sacrifice themselves in order for the main character, a lot of times it's a man, but this time it's a woman, but still a white character, to grow and to propel their journey. Their
Yep.
sacrifice is meant to make someone else grow and learn and be better. And that
Yep.
is unacceptable.
Yep.
So
Yep.
remember that, guys, for your own writing. Remember that here and now. I love SJM. I do love these books. I love what she's done. And yet we can find fault and say, do better.
We are now in chapter 26, and Kale is out with the King of Otterlin and Dorian while they're hunting with the other members of the court. Quote, as Kale trailed behind the king, his new Asterian stallion earning many admiring and envious glances from the hunting party, Kale allowed himself to consider, for one heartbeat, what his father would make of Selena. So I want to point out the particular point where there are many admiring and envious glances from the hunting party towards the new Asterian stallion. Something we didn't talk about before Kale and Selena boned in the broom closet is that when she showed up at the barracks to steal Kale away, all the guards were looking at her appreciatively. And so I have to ask, is the Asterian stallion metaphor for Selena?
Yeah.
Because they are treated the same way.
Yep.
And once again, emphasizes the fact that Kale wants control.
Yep.
Now, during the hunting, the king calls out Kale for killing game for the other nobles to claim. And that's what Kale's done in the past. But he's a little distracted right now, and the king sees it. And Kale thinks, quote, perhaps he hadn't been as discreet as he thought. Now, Kale smiles at this thought. He's like, oh, the king noticed it that I kill game for the other nobles so that they can look good. And he smiles at it. And I think it's because he appreciates being noticed.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've seen how important it is to him that he is noticed. Kale's distracted from the fact that the king notices everything Kale does. That's a threat.
Yeah.
Kale's with Selena. Kale is distracted. The king notices. That should be concerning. But it's not, because Kale is not on his A game right now. He is distracted. As the king tells Kale to have his men stationed outside the room where the king will interrogate Nehemia that evening, Kale asks if there is anything else that the king needs. Quote, no, the king said, knocking an arrow to his bow and firing at a pheasant that surged up from the brush. A clean shot, right through the eye. That will be all. Now, just from a writing perspective, this feels very, very tied to the fact that the king is going to interrogate Nehemia tonight. They're literally talking about interrogating Nehemia, and then he kills a pheasant.
Yeah.
It is foreshadowing that Nehemia will die.
Yep.
And I know that seems really disjointed.
But not really.
But not really. Look at what the conversation is and look at the actions that are happening. And then, just have to point out that Dorian and Kale, there's just so much tension because Dorian feels left out.
Dorian just wants to be loved.
He just wants to be part of the throuple.
Don't worry. He'll totally have peace and harmony from here on out. It's fine. You were saying something about like when the king noticed, and that's threatening. When people notice, it's threatening. And I'm just laughing because Amy's fiance is visiting family. And immediately I was like, oh, let me guess. You put together a list of all the things that you want to do, and you're going to code it by day of which day you're going to do it. And then today at the gym, I was like, there's nothing you love more than being productive, or like planning for productivity is being efficient. It's threatening details, and I know.
It is. It is scary to be seen.
What was my other one? I thought about this. I was laughing so hard. Was that when you're determined, I can't remember, you lead with your left shoulder.
Really?
We talked about this when you were like, I think you've adjusted since then, but there was like a time where when I was like, oh yeah, when you're determined, you kind of like you're walking, you lead with your shoulder. I pointed out to you one time at the gym, and then you started doing it. You're like, wait, what? And I feel like I haven't seen that happen in a
No,
while.
you said left foot,
Left foot,
not
whatever
left,
shoulder foot, but you lead with something. I can't remember if you lead with the hip, a foot, but you lead with the side of your like one side of your body.
which makes sense because the right side of my body is the one that's always damaged.
Yeah. But it's just it is funny like when you know like I'm very observant.
Yeah, she can tell when like my hips are hurting
Yeah.
or when my back is hurting. She's like, "You're walking different." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't
I
realize."
am a very for someone who is very does not clock a lot of things in life, ask me what someone's name is, I could not tell you. But if you're in my like bubble of what I know about someone, I am very observant.
Yeah. Yep.
You'll never escape to me. I will always threatening. It's threatening.
It is threatening.
Saying here now. Yes, it is. In the most loving way possible. I don't want this kind of Netflix documentary shit being used against me. Kale being with the king right now and with Dorian, it's making Kale a little confused because now we're back to Kale trying to figure out what's the right and honorable thing. It's very easy when he's with his hot girlfriend and being able to be like, you know what? The king does kind of suck. I do want to follow you. Versus now he's in front of the king, he's in front of Dorian, and he doesn't know what's the right or wrong thing to do. It's why Kale starts to question on whether or not he should be honest and tell Selena that the king wants to interrogate and question Nehemia. And ultimately, Kale decides not to tell Selena because he worries, and this is a fair thought, that telling Selena might be a test to Kale to think, how loyal can he be? And in all fairness, I will say, like, he wants to question Nehemia. That doesn't implicitly say he's going to kill her, right?
Right.
I, you know, he wants to ask her questions. I think that's not a big enough thing to be like, hey, I think that he's not saying, hey, I want you to be there, ask questions. Like, can you lay a rubber mat on the floor and get me my gloves, right? But I'm going to go into this quote. Selena, knowing or not knowing, made no difference. He told himself as he laid curled around her in his bed. We're back to these power dynamics, right? Kale has this power over Selena in this moment because he knows something she doesn't know. And poor Selena, she doesn't know shit. She doesn't know anything.
No, and it's really unfortunate. And I understand Kale's conflict, right? Because from his point of view, the king's just going to ask questions. It's because Kale lacks the knowledge of the secret guards that the king has, of the killing of Rena Goldsmith and her partner, right? There's so much that Kale doesn't know and chooses to not investigate.
Yeah.
And so he takes the king at face value,
Yeah.
at his word, because that is easier than doubting the king. And Kale really struggles with it in this moment. Quote, Kale didn't tell Selena what the king had said. The part of him twisted until it hurt. The king wouldn't hurt Nehemia, not when she was such a public and well-liked figure. Not when he'd warned Kale about that anonymous threat on Nehemia's life. But he had a feeling that whatever was going to be said in the council room wasn't going to be pleasant. So on some level, Kale knows not to trust the king and is worried about Nehemia. Again, when the king told Kale that there was a threat on Nehemia's life, Kale wanted to tell Nehemia and her guards. He is choosing to be willfully ignorant, and he knows it.
Yeah.
He is aware of that choice. And I think that's because it's easier to be willfully ignorant than it is to jeopardize his honor by telling Selena what is going on. Because what if it's nothing? What if it's just questions?
And that's a very reasonable thing to think, like that it is just questions.
And it is only because Kale is so honorable that he's not willing to mention it.
Yes. But even through all that, Kale still loves Selena. Like, his loyalty is to her. Quote, if the king ever gave him the order to dispatch her, then he plunged his sword into his own heart before he would obey. His soul was bound to hers by some unbreakable chain. These are the oaths and these are his commitments to one another, and it's shaking him up, right? Like, he's just kind of like, okay, I'm going to listen to the king, but I will never hurt her.
His soul was bound to hers by some unbreakable chain.
Yep.
Again, if not mate, why mate shaped?
Mm-hmm.
Because unbreakable chain
Is mate shit.
is mate shit.
I have so many questions for her. I have so many. You know what? I would rather a detailed explanation of what the fuck is going on more right now than the next ACOTAR book. I said it.
I think I want SJM to rewrite Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight more than I want the next Avatar book.
I could not agree with you more. And I'm going to throw in Heir of Fire.
I haven't read Heir of Fire recently, so I can't remember.
Same.
But I'm just Nehemia needs so badly to be rewritten.
She can still have the outcomes that are all going to happen. I really need her to rewrite these to make it make sense and to stop making Kale mate shape.
Yeah.
We get this moment where Kale thinks about Selena as his wife again. Like, at first he's like, oh my God, what if my dad met her? Wouldn't that be crazy? Well, what about this? Quote, he snorted, imagining what his father would think when he learned that Kale had taken Adderlin's assassin for his wife. The thought stopped Kale dead in his tracks. She was only 18. That is the right thought, by the way. I would like to flag this. That's some good, honorable shit. That is some good, be like, wait a minute, she is way too young. So I just want to say, good job, Kale. I will also say, though, is that before this, Kale talks about his mom and how his mom was perfect for his dad because she was the ultimate wife and mother and was meek and submissive. And I wonder if Kale struggles with Selena, the idea of Selena being a wife, because the only wife he's ever seen would be his mother, right? To his father. And he knows that Selena doesn't fit because he can't even imagine introducing Selena as his girlfriend and then as a wife. And it's just like, the idea of it is, he laughs at it. Like, he knows that it's ridiculous. But again, Selena goes against what he knows.
Yeah, which makes sense. But he tries to imagine it. And before he's kidnapped, which is how the chapter ends, he thinks, quote, but he couldn't help imagining it, the glimmer of the future and how it would be to forge a life together, to call her his wife, to hear her call him husband, to raise a brood of children who would probably be far too clever and talented for their own good and for Kale's sanity. It's cute. It demonstrates that he's really in deep, which tragically is going to be mirrored by Selena in the next chapter, just for it all to fall apart. We never have to see them struggle through the consequences of being together.
Yeah.
This is so just in its infancy stages. It's how you play make-believe in your head when you meet someone cute and you're going on a few dates, right? It's not real. And it's about to end.
And maybe that's what makes this hurt more, right? Like, maybe this is good writing in the sense that it ends before it even begins. Maybe that's kind of the point. Maybe it's the fact that they were never going to work, and maybe if they were together longer, it would start to become more clear and apparent that there would be issues between them.
Yeah.
And they get to live in the what if and the fantasy, and that's some of the things that hurts the most, right? Are the ones that got away, are the one, like, we all have that what if person that we look back to and think like, oh my God, if things had been different.
Yeah.
And that could be the genius of this story, of it making it hurt so good, right? But again, why mate shape if not mate?
Yep.
Let's get into
some breadcrumbs and broomsticks.
Yeah. Chapter 23. Kale thinks about Selena moving on from him. Wherever she made her home, there would be some man who would fall in love with her and would make her his wife. And that was the worst truth of it all. And that sucks because it's true. She will
Mhm.
find her mate. She will find Rowan, and like his fear will come true.
Still in chapter 23, when Kale and Selena go to her room to have sex, quote, "It was a miracle she made it back to her door without pulling him into a closet."
Yeah.
Which is funny because that does happen
Like
later.
she's like, it's almost like she got that idea in her head. She was like, God, I just really want to
Mm-hmm.
fuck him in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
In chapter 24, when Dorian talks about Baba Yellowlegs, she tells him, when Dorian talks to Baba Yellowlegs, she tells him that witches are related to, quote, Fae or Valg. We never learned which one. Right after she is described as smelling like mildew and rotted blood, I have a feeling we know which one. Spoiler, the Fae smell nice.
Still in chapter 24, when Selena runs into Archer as her targets flee Rifthold, quote, "I don't have anything to say. I'm too busy debating whether I should just kill you and drag your carcass before the king." She wasn't bluffing. After last night with Kale, she was starting to wonder whether simplicity would be best. Anything to keep Kale from getting ensnared in a potential mess. Well, Kale does get ensnared in a mess.
Mm-hmm.
She does kill people because he gets ensnared, and then she does ultimately kill Archer and drag his carcass before the king. There was just a lot of foretelling in that one section.
Oh, yes. Back to my earlier saying, hey, I'm going to rant later. Quote, Selena tells Nehemia, I am one person chosen by Queen Elena, one person whose brow burned with a sacred mark on the day of that duel, one person who, despite the odds, is still breathing. Our paths crossed for a reason. If you are not God bless, then who is? Elena told Nehemia, go to Aderlin. Elena
Mm-hmm.
told Nehemia about Selena. Elena told Nehemia, go be friends with her. How the fuck is
Mm-hmm.
that fate? How the fuck is that being like paths crossed in this moment? And you mentioned in another episode, and we had to delete it because it was not said in the Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks area. So I'd like you to say it again here. And you talked about thinking that Nehemia was resentful of Selena. Why is that?
Because when she was studying word marks, if I remember correctly, Nehemia comes across a prophecy about a princess who will change the fate of the world, essentially. I can't remember which book we learned this in. It might be Queen of Shadows. It might be Empire of Storms, one of those two. So, what we learned during that conversation is that Nehemia thought she was the princess foretold, only to find out Elena said, "No, it's not you. I need you to go make the real princess being foretold to get her ass moving."
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, or if I imagined it, Nehemia's really upset by that. She wants to do the noble thing. She wants to be the one to free her people, free the world of the King of Otterlin. And yet she comes to this spoiled assassin who is selfish, who is unwilling to fight for others because she has trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And Nehemia hates that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I agree. I think Nehemia, one, the amount of ego that it takes to be like, oh my God, a prophecy about a princess? It's
Must be
me.
me.
It's me. Oh my God, I'm the princess. Like that takes a lot of ego.
Yeah.
But then to be rocked by the fact that it is someone who is so unwilling, yeah, I think I agree. So I do believe that I love your idea of Nehemia being very spiteful and
Mm-hmm.
angry about it and
Yep.
resentful.
Last but not least, in chapter 26, Kale is out with the king and Dorian while they are hunting. And I'm going to read a couple quotes. Quote, "He was massive. The king's size always surprised Kale for some reason." Quote, "No," the king said, knocking an arrow to his bow and firing at a pheasant that surged up from the brush. A clean shot right through the eye. So there's a lot of descriptions of the king being big and deadly, and we should probably be asking ourselves, why does he need protection?
Mm-hmm.
When he's exactly like Cain,
Mm-hmm.
he's big and broad
And has a
and
black
wears a
ring.
black ring.
Yep. Now for the broomsticks. And our broomsticks, we asked our listeners, was Nehemia right? Is Selena a coward?
All right, so I will start with DJ. I wouldn't necessarily say that Selena is a coward, but Aelin is. She's at this weird point where she still has Aelin buried, but she's not really Selena anymore, not truly. I would argue that Selena started to crumble as an identity in Dovier. Nehemia's purpose is to get Aelin back to fight against the king and, more importantly, the Valg. So, of course, in Nehemia's eyes, Selena slash Aelin is a coward because she's too scared to be herself and fight for what she knows is right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the distinction is good.
Yeah. Aelin, again, maybe the term coward is just like harsh for me, but Aelin has responsibilities. Selena does not.
Yeah. Yep.
I found this to be super interesting, the fact that people are very much yes and no. Like the amount of people is saying yes, 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 and then firm no, absolutely not. Leah says, I don't know the answer to that, but I really wish we had more of Nehemia's point of view. Did she really have to die to make her point? No.
I don't think so.
Nope. We have another one. No, not a coward. She didn't know all the parameters of what's happening. Gotta save yourself first.
I mean, honestly, yes. And the fact that we try to teach against that, it's nuanced.
It's so nuanced.
I guess that's what I'm going to say. Michaela says Selena is not a coward. She is a young woman, not a girl. I am learning, with little to no resources, no Terrazin allies she knows, and who is just trying to survive. The rebels seem just like a small group that would not help her even if they recognized her. Oh yeah, they would just take advantage of her.
Absolutely.
She's just being smart.
Someone says, Selena is an 18-year-old magical being in a world of genocide. My bad if our girl wants to live. Yeah.
Fair.
It is magical genocide. Oh my god. Good point. Is it cowardice if you know you can't win? Aelin wasn't a coward, but she wasn't ready to be Aelin. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think the distinction between Selena and Aelin is important because Selena is making a transition, whether or not she knows it currently.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true? I think you could argue either side. Selena's the coward and Aelin isn't, or Selena isn't, but Aelin is.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard to distinguish between them right now because Selena doesn't know who the fuck she is either. Yeah. She does, but she doesn't.
Not at all. I mean, other people make good points of immature is a more accurate description of Selena. Coward was just to use to light a fire under her ass to get her on her journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I also feel like Nehemia was selfish enough to believe that you know, Selena is a coward.
I mean, for all her wisdom, Nehemia is dumb and immature too.
Dumb. I mean, ultimately, a couple people here, when they say yes, she is a coward, but Nehemia knew her fate. So, you know, how can you be brave when you know your fate?
Yeah, it's fair.
And then plenty of people saying she's a child. Someone says yes and no. I only say this as I'm in my 30s, but they are both so young and think they're all right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's easy to criticize someone when you know that you're never going to have to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nehemia knows on some level she's never going to have to fight the fight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, no, she does know. Someone else speaks. I mean, everyone who's saying yes is pretty much agreeing that it's like because she's traumatized, because there's, you know, traumatized is more than cowardly. Yes, but also makes it sound very black and white when there's different shades of gray. Like, I mean, even the people who say yes, she was cowardice understands the nuance of it. Someone else says no, and this is a good point. Selena undoubtedly would have failed trying to reclaim Terrazin earlier in her journey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. I think you got to ask me a question. Have you asked the last 3 questions?
I feel like I have.
We need to make sure I ask the question next week.
Yeah. All right, Jack. So for this week's question, if knowledge is power, what are the power dynamics between Selena, Cale, and Nehemia?
So there's some, I don't know if it's irony, but maybe there is if I make the point correctly to this. Selena thinks that she's the one who holds the most amount of knowledge because she thinks that she's the only one who knows about her true identity. I think in the hierarchy of this, Kale is probably the least powerful, knowledgeable. I think the only thing that he has knowledge and power over is the fact that Nehemia is being targeted, is being threatened, is going to be interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that little bit goes a long way. So quite unfortunate. When I say what the irony is that I think Selena walks around not like I'm so powerful, but with this burden of truth, right, on her shoulders, when Nehemia has the same burden of truth. The only difference is Nehemia is manipulating that burden, that knowledge, which means she's manipulating the power dynamics. And Nehemia knows the most, and she is the most powerful. And you can really see that because she's the one who, granted, all done on Elena's account, but again, Nehemia could very much have said, hey, would love to live. And it's Nehemia who disrupts this entire story and Selena's life and everything. I mean, it gets the ball rolling. That was the job, her job to do. But she is the most powerful character here because she holds the most amount of knowledge, and she shouldn't.
Yeah, and we're not saying it's this really tricky situation, right? Where Elena has given Nehemia all the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, her own burden of truth becomes the reason for her sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because she's in on the secret and you can't kill a woman who's already dead. So you have to kill Nehemia, who's second in this hierarchy, kind of. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with everything that you said. Nehemia has all the power over Selena right now, which Selena doesn't understand because Nehemia is manipulating her. I also think, though, that all the knowledge that Nehemia has works against her.
Yes.
I think that she's never truly able to wield the power that she has because A, she was never meant to.
Mm-hmm.
B, she also is a child.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never her journey. And really, Elena should have just done it herself from the get-go.
That's a good point. You know, for someone who has the most knowledge, the most quote unquote power, she is the most powerless because she is the one who never questions anything.
Yeah.
Quick answer. I mean, that we're doing broomsticks correctly or giving it more of an effort. Our part goes by quickly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I enjoyed it. Now don't look forward to having my heart broken from here on out.
Neither do I. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Next week, we will be exploring chapters 27 through 34 of Crown of Midnight.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would also love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk.
Bye.
Bye.